I did have the good fortune to work with Jeff a lot across all of my career. My favorite lesson from Jeff, I think, is how he evaluated projects. He got very good at asking insightful questions. He had these three questions to judge a new proposal. And those questions were, is it real? Is it worth it? Can we win? Like a VP at Amazon today makes like $2 million, let's say. If you're blowing 2 million a year, you're having a good time. It's first class everywhere and great restaurants and a huge house. I chose fewer things and more free time and more meaning. You know, if you're one of the people who's like quiet quitting and is kind of doing the minimum to keep your salary and having average reviews, it's pretty easy to put you on the we can do better later list. It's nothing wrong with connecting on LinkedIn. I invite everyone to connect to me as a start. But the way you grow any network is providing value.
Welcome, everyone. And today, I am thrilled to have with us Ethan Evans, a highly respected figure in the world of business and leadership. Ethan is a former VP at Amazon, where he spent over 15 years. Just to give a sense of that level, because the title VP means different things at different companies, I am a principal at AWS, which is level 7, equivalent to a senior manager title. Then we have level 8, which is a director, and then there is VP, which is level 10. VPs report to the CTO. The CTO of AWS is Adam Selipsky, who is level 11. And then there is only level 12, Andy Jassy. Ethan worked with Jeff Bezos directly while at Amazon, which we will talk about, and he also interviewed with Elon Musk. Ethan led global teams of over 800 people and invented well-known businesses and products such as Prime Video, Prime Gaming, Twitch Commerce, and more. He has also taken over 2,500 interviews, helped create one of the Amazon leadership principles, have over 70 patents, and currently runs a very successful newsletter and career coaching program where he helps people advance in their career and succeed in leadership roles. Now, somehow miraculously, I'm humbled to interview him and get insights from him. Ethan, welcome to the show, and thanks for spending some time with my viewers.
Raj, it's fantastic to be here. You do such a glowing job describing my career that I end up wanting to meet me. Who is this person you talk of? Because I don't often think of it that way. Let's jump in.
Well, the first question is, most of my viewers are individual contributors on tech. So we generally over-index technical chops over anything else. However, what are some of the other valuable skills that we should learn to get a job or do great in our career?
Absolutely. I often tell people that you have 4, 6, 8, depending on if you did a master's, PhD, or more years of education in your primary field. But no one gave you training on how to get along in a corporate world. There's no degree in emotional intelligence or soft skills. And the interesting thing is those are learnable. You can develop better soft skills. And the research shows, don't believe me, believe Google. The research shows that in the end, soft skills dominate hard skills in career success. The ability to get along, the ability to collaborate, the ability to speak well, to communicate clearly. Obviously, you know this. You've built a YouTube channel, which is all about communication. Those are the skills to look at because you already have tech. The other thing I would say is, remember the Pareto principle and the 80-20 rule. You're already so deep into tech that getting a little bit better takes a lot of effort. Meanwhile, if you've never invested in how to write clearly, or honestly, you're a little bit curmudgeonly and like to be left alone and have never invested in how to really work with others, you're at the place where a little bit of effort is going to get you a huge gain. And that kind of simple investment that doesn't take that much can open a lot of doors. You're a principal. I suspect you've noticed, the people who get to principal they have to play nice with others and they have to have some
Yeah.
skill in that.
We have a saying in our world that no system design is perfect. Everything has pros and cons. At the end of the day, it comes down to you whether you can influence the folks to scale what you are trying to do, right? And unless you have some soft skills, it becomes very, very difficult because solutions architects don't have anyone reporting to them, yet we have to influence a very large audience.
Yeah, and I like how often you use the word influence.
Yeah.
That's such a heart for me as an executive and for the executives I help develop as well as senior individual contributors.
Mm-hmm.
They are all about influence because they don't have direct authority. They can't
Right.
really give anyone an order. So they have to convince. And we love to think that, oh, if I'm just technically brilliant enough, but we know the best idea doesn't always win because people have, commitments or friendships or beliefs and biases, and it's
Right.
working them through the process of how can you see that my idea doesn't threaten whatever your installed base, your team's remit. There's so many things where people will remember, clever people can always find a reason to argue
Right.
against something.
Yep.
Like this is just a game. We're all smart, we're all well educated. If I tell you, argue that the earth is flat or
Mm-hmm.
that the moon landings never happened, in 5 minutes you can make this great case.
Mm-hmm.
Now the case will have holes, but if you've decided you want to believe it, it will sound plausible.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, and talking about influencing, that leads me to my next question. Networking plays a huge role, getting a job, influencing others. And yet sometimes we think networking means just adding connect in the LinkedIn. You have grown over 86,000 followers in LinkedIn. What are some of your tips and tricks of growing a network in a meaningful way?
Absolutely. So it's nothing wrong with connecting on LinkedIn. I invite
Yeah.
everyone to connect to me as a start. But the way you grow any network is providing value.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you find something that you love to do or love to talk about. It can be your tech field. If you really love, you have the giant Lambda behind you.
Nice.
If you're really into some piece of Amazon technology, like the Lambda functions,
Mm-hmm.
then you can be the blogger about that, or you can be the person who provides expertise. And it doesn't have to be on LinkedIn. It can be on Stack Overflow. It can be on Reddit. It can be in an email you send out or in internal brown bags. But share something that you love. People who also love it or are interested in it will connect to you and you'll start to build a network. That network, I often, coming from Twitch, one of the things, most people are going to know Twitch, but for anybody who doesn't, it's video game streaming. And there is an argument that says, like, who on earth, why would you watch someone else play a game when you can play it yourself
Mm-hmm.
or do something else? But yet it's super popular. And it's because the people playing the games have personalities and they talk about things that others find interesting. It's not the game, it's the talk. In that sense, we used to say there's a collection of people interested in every possible topic. And the example I use is Wookiee culture.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Star Wars has Wookiees, and as we know, it's sort of Bigfoot goes to space. But there are some people who think Wookiees are the coolest thing ever because there's this culture of like crossbow using Bigfoot, surfing
Mm-hmm.
through this through the stars. You might ask, what use is a network of Wookiee lovers? Yet those people all have jobs and they all have money and they all have lives beyond their passion for Star Wars. And when you need something, they can help you out. They are well connected and you just need enough of them. And one of them has the answer to everything. And I could give, and if you want me to, I can give all kinds of examples of where I reached out to my network and found crazy connections on short notice.
Wow.
And it's just numbers because the connections, I teach leadership, but in none of the examples will the people who helped me be helping me with a leadership problem. They'll be helping me with something else.
Another thing to keep in mind is building network takes time, right? So if you think, oh, that person is just another senior or principal, Like I want to network with the director, VPs. Remember, in 5 to 10 years, those people will be director and VPs. And like on the post, I always find it insightful as well as engaging when instead of just saying like clicking the like button, put something insightful, put something that comes to your mind, right? And when you engage long enough with a certain person or a group, they start to remember you. You become one of them.
You're right. Most people are open to engagement. If you put a nice comment, they'll often comment back or at least read it. And it's a little bit karmic. You just have to put your energy out and you don't know who will connect back to you. And to your other point, and thank you for bringing it up, yes, people grow in their careers. I managed a lot of people at your level when I was a VP. So I had senior managers and directors reporting to me. Most of them now are either VP plus at Amazon or they've left and they're in executive roles all over the industry. So like one of my direct reports who joined me as an L5 engineer many, many years ago, recently, I won't say where he is now, but his previous role, so a role he's already had and left, was the EVP at Google running Gmail.
Incredible.
Gmail is a huge product. He was responsible for 1 billion users. His team was 3,000 people. Now, this is someone who's grown all the way from working for me as software engineer managing no one to managing 3,000 people, which is more than I ever had. And that's just, you build that network. He's one of my good friends. He's super well connected. And so make friends now with the high performers around you and just give them enough time in the oven and they will come out as beautiful cakes and pies.
Excellent. Excellent. Beautifully said, Ethan. Okay, this is 2024. No conversation goes without talking about layoffs, right? And as engineers, we like to talk about probability and not certainty. So how do you increase the probability of not getting laid off in recent times?
It's funny. I'm going to be doing I don't know when you'll publish this episode, but I'm going to be doing a talk about that in like 9 days on the 23rd of February. So if it's in the past, you can probably get the video. If it's in the future, you can come find it. But the way to stay off a layoff list, first, understand, yes, some layoffs are done by, say, seniority. And some layoffs are done by a whole team gets cut. But very often they're trimming a part of a team. And then what happens is, whether they admit it or not, some set of leaders sit in a room and decide who they need to keep and who they can afford not to keep. And so that's about the relationship you have with the leaders and the value you're producing. If you're one of the people who's like quiet quitting and is kind of doing the minimum to keep your salary and having average reviews, it's pretty easy to put you on the we can do better later list, right? We can do better than you later. I don't mean to say, people always get mad at me and say, well, you're blaming the people who are laid off. I am not saying that's always true. I am saying it's sometimes true. And I got myself laid off twice in my career and I learned from that, right? In my case, I was the classic sort of stereotypical difficult to get along with engineer. And I got myself laid off, not because my work wasn't good, but because I hadn't yet focused on social skills. That's what prompted me to do it. I'm like, there's a pattern here and the pattern is me. So the way you stay off the list, build that relationship with your manager, make sure you're delivering and working well with others, and be a help to your leadership, not a responsibility. Find a way to go help them, ask them what they need. It doesn't mean you have to just work, and burn yourself out. It's do the right work. It's not who does the most work, because often you're doing all this work that people don't really value. You're off chasing your own, I want to learn this language. I want to polish this architecture to be perfect and to be a monument to my opinion of good code. Well, that may take you a lot of time and you may be very tired. But if I just wanted it to ship, your monument to great architecture and your opinion may not get you anything.
Yeah, 100%. Also, it's very difficult to believe you were hard to get along with. But I will have a follow-up question.
A long time ago.
So one question, Ethan, is a follow-up question. sometimes, the folks don't have like any choice, because if the whole group is not bringing revenue, the whole group is cut, even with the
Yep.
nice list and stuff. Should folks be proactively looking for other groups when the times are tough, to a little bit more high earning groups or high revenue groups?
Yeah, I would say you should at least think about that. You should think about if you're part of a company that's not profitable, or you're part of a division that's got a history of not being profitable. We can see right now in the FANG companies and elsewhere, the knives are out, and you look, they talk about cutting the fat, and you look like fat because your group isn't making money, and money is always the bottom line in corporate America. It's
Yeah.
something of a flaw that that's true. But in good times, there's money sort of sloshing around, and they're like, oh, it's an investment, it's an experiment. In bad times, they're like, yeah, it's a cost. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing at both times, but how it's being viewed. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I would say be aware that you can be doing great work and have a great friendship with your manager and be providing a lot of value. But if the product isn't going anywhere or is hemorrhaging money, they're still going to make cuts.
Good tips, Ethan. All right, this question I'm super excited about. So I really like Jeff Bezos. That's one of the reasons I really wanted to join Amazon. And you mentioned in your multiple posts that you worked with Jeff. If you can share how it was to interact with him and one takeaway that you learned from him, that would be awesome.
I did have the good fortune to work with Jeff a lot across all of my career. There's so many tips and tricks I learned from watching him. I'm sure all of your viewers are smart and well educated. One of the humbling things about Jeff is I'm just like you. I like to be smart. I like to say the most clever things and be first
Mm-hmm.
to the insight. Jeff's really smart, and quickly around him you realize like, I'm playing at the college level and he's playing pro, and like it just isn't the same. My favorite lesson from Jeff, I think, is how he evaluated projects. He got very good at asking insightful questions. He had these three questions to judge a new proposal. And those questions were, is it real? Is it worth it? Can we win? So, is it real meant like, okay, you have this idea you're proposing, but is it a time machine? Is it perpetual motion? Like, when we really dig into it, can it be built? Can it be shipped? Because there's some things that just can't be built right now. We've all seen Star Trek and like a holodeck.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're getting closer to that with virtual reality, but
Right.
like your holodeck proposal probably isn't quite ready yet. Now, so that's, is it real? The second thing is it worth it? Well, there are some things that can be built, but they don't have a lot of market or profit potential. There may be low margin or niche products. I once remember someone trying to pitch our group that we should build specialized features for to control in-house sound systems like
Mm.
Sonos. Well, that's a pretty narrow market. Like most people's houses don't have in-house sound system. And then the third question was, can we win? And that was Jeff's looking at a market and saying, is Amazon or is our company well positioned? And so Jeff got hit up with proposals every 6 months, as far as I know, or probably every 6 days,
Mm-hmm.
to go into the financial industry, to build banking apps, to be a bank, to all kinds of things around consumer finance or high finance, or being in a stock market player in the sense. And he came from that industry. So it's not that he didn't know it, but he said, look, there are entrenched players there. It's highly regulated. It's well served. How do we differentiate? What are we going to do that's novel?
Mm-hmm.
And so he rejected proposal after proposal. And I'm sure, Andy, to this day, there's people now peppering him with, we should buy Coinbase and fix them. I would say that those three questions were the biggest thing I learned from Jeff: how to evaluate projects, not negatively, but just realize you only have a chance to start a few projects. It takes a lot of resources, so pick
Mm-hmm.
really carefully.
Got it. Also, like, how was he to interact with? Like, one thing I really like about Jeff is he's funny, right? A lot of people don't realize it, but if you watch his interviews, he has a good sense of humor. Like, was he like that when you were working with him, or was he tough to his employees? Like, how was he?
So I've seen both sides of Jeff, but I've mostly
Mhm,
seen the funny. I probably had about 50 meetings with Jeff over
mhm,
my time at Amazon. And I did see one meeting where he was grilling someone pretty hard. He was upset about the progress of something and he was really like kind of giving that person the third degree for an hour. And that
mhm.
was kind of uncomfortable. And I was very glad to be sitting at the end of the table only watching. Like, whoa, don't want to be that. But, the other 49 meetings, he was in a good mood. Sometimes he was very funny. I happened just by chance to be in the first meeting Jeff had with his S team
Mm,
after the false story, it turns out to have been false, story broke that he had been sexting with his girlfriend and
mm,
supposedly sent a picture of his private parts.
mhm.
Now, it turns out someone just took a picture off the internet and sent it because they had hijacked his phone, and he can prove that. It's not just a cover story. But it's an elephant in the living room, right? Everybody's
Right.
read the news story, Bezos sexting an affair.
Yeah,
And then here he is sitting in the room with everyone that same day.
yeah.
And he looked at everybody and said, before we start, I just want to know, does anyone here think they've had a worse day than me? Let's talk about it. And, he just laughs and, because he's like, if you've had a worse day than me, I want to hear about it because I need to feel better. And, it's tough. It's a humiliating accusation. Everyone's wondering, like, did he really do that? And oh my God, what, like, is he really that much of an every guy who's like sending pictures of his junk to a girl? He's sitting there with all the, and it also affects the company, right? If the
Right.
CEO, and so he's got to say something. And he handled it with humor. Now, he also handled it in a very Jeff way. He hired an investigative firm and like all these, shark-like people who tracked down and eventually proved, and this is terrible, that it was his girlfriend's kind of slimy brother
Yep.
who was trying to sell a story to a tabloid because he wanted money. So it's like, it's like you can't write this story in fiction. You'd be like, the brother was working with a tabloid. Really, that's bad
Crazy.
writing. But
Crazy.
in the real world, that's what happened.
I bet the brother is not invited to the yacht. Okay, so he
No,
he disinvited himself.
now that he's, long term with Lauren Sanchez,
Yeah,
that's got to be awkward.
gotta
Like
be
your
awkward.
brother threw you under the bus to a tabloid
Yeah,
claiming you were sending dick pics.
right.
It's like that's got to be a family reunion that's tricky.
Yeah, excellent. You also met another guy who I really respect. Just to be fair, Elon Musk. I used to follow him from long back, like way before when he was working with Obama and stuff, before he started twist storming all this stuff. I used to have a Elon poster on the back, but then I was meeting a lot of customers, and some of his recent tweets kind of pushed people off. I'm a big fan of his first principles thinking. And you also met him. So, how was it to meet Elon Musk?
Yeah, it was fascinating. Thank you for asking. So,
Mm-hmm.
what happened is I got a cold call, like all of us get, that said, hey, we're looking for a VP of software for SpaceX to report to Elon. And I thought, wow, again, it's pre-Twitter days,
Right.
pre-X days.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, I have a good job at Amazon, but to work directly from perhaps the only person who rivals Bezos for
Right.
inventiveness and impact, I have to go take this interview.
Yeah.
So the first thing is I don't sneak around. I'm very direct. And so I went and told my boss, hey, I got this email to go interview with Musk. I got to do it. Like, it's no offense to you or to Amazon, but I gotta,
Mm-hmm.
if I can help put people on Mars, that's a historic achievement, to the point I was already thinking in my life about the question of where can I do something more meaningful to mankind. Well, the funny thing is my boss said, Oh yeah, you should totally talk to him. I interviewed to go work at Tesla and we didn't connect, but
Mm,
he's a good guy. You should go meet him. So I flew down to California and I was doing my interviews. Now, something you should know about me, I have a technical background, but once I became an executive, I felt that my job was to focus on leading the team, developing the people, setting the strategy, not to also try and keep my hand in daily coding.
right.
And I had told the recruiters, hey, when you say VP of software, let's just be clear what you mean. Do you mean someone to lead the software team, or do you mean like this other model, which is also fine? It's just not my model of part-time coder, part-time leader, because I'm not that. And
Mm-hmm.
they said, oh, no, 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 we want a VP of software. I'm like, great. I
Mm-hmm.
show up, I'm doing the interviews. I get to Elon. We're having a nice talk. We talk 10, 15 minutes. He seems like a nice guy. And then he says, well, I would want you to code 10% of the time.
Mm.
And my jaw hits the table because I'm like, oh my God, I ask about this 100%. And so I kind of pick my jaw back up and I say to him, hey, do you know I don't do that? But do you know I told your recruiting team I'm not your person if you want a part-time coder. And he's like, what? What'd they say? And they said, oh no, Elon doesn't want that. And he's like, what do you mean? Of course I want that. And I'm like, hey, that's not my problem. I talked to him about it for a minute. And I did say, like, I don't see how it makes sense, how it's even wise to have a part-time coder writing
Mm-hmm.
code for a rocket that people are going to ride on. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to ride on the rocket that I coded in my spare time between meetings. This is not. And he's like, okay, you've got a point. Like, you should write test code or framework code or something. I'm like, all right, I don't agree. And well, we're going to have to agree to disagree. And that was the end, in that I knew it was over. Now, it is interesting. The thought passed through my mind. He's only asking me if I will do this.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to test me. It's not like he's got a whiteboard in here and he's going to be like, reverse a string.
Yeah.
So I could have just said, okay, but I knew that signing myself up for expectations I didn't really believe in wasn't a win for either of us. And so what happened was I said, hey, I appreciate your time. I'm not your person. I'd rather maintain our relationship for some future where we can work together. So I'm going to leave and give you your time back. And so I can honestly say I walked out of an interview with Elon Musk. And now that he's shown a new side to himself, let's say
Right.
politely, I
Yeah.
don't regret, I didn't regret the decision at the time, but I was sad.
Yeah.
Now I don't regret the decision. And I feel like, oh, good call, Ethan. Like, you dodged a bullet. So that's my Elon Musk story. But he was a nice guy. Like, I didn't,
Right.
I've heard he can be very difficult, obviously, has a reputation. I'm sure it would have been very hard work,
Right.
but I had a good interview with him.
Excellent. I don't think not many people can say they walked out of an Elon Musk interview, but I do hope Tesla does good because I do have shitload of Tesla stocks.
Yeah, me
And
too. So,
and the last thing is you wanted your name to be in history, which you already did because you helped craft ownership leadership principle, which we'll keep it for some other time. Okay, excellent. Next question. This one is for my personal reason as well. I really like how you post about you wanted to really push yourself in Amazon, go to a optimal limit, and then retire early and do your own stuff or stuff that you take more enjoyment in. So folks, including me, struggle to envision career progression in the next 5, 10 years. We don't know. Honestly, I don't know when to quit. How should we think about it?
wow, that's like a deep multi-part question. There's a few things. First, I always tell people if they're listening to a show like this,
Mm-hmm.
they're already winning life. You may not feel that way, but let me try and convince you. Number one, you read, write, and speak English at
Right.
it may be your second language, but English is the language of international business and commerce. And you read, write, and speak it. Second, you're sitting in front of a computer or a phone listening to this, which means you have internet access. And third, probably if you're part of Raj's audience, you're technical. The fact is, that puts you in the driver's seat of the world. You're going to be paid well. You're going to have lots of opportunities. So one thing is just I'm 54. Compound interest, a much smarter man than me, right? Einstein said the miracle of the modern world is compound interest. Compound interest applies in two ways. Number one, you put money in the market, places like Tesla, it will probably go up. You'll end up with more. Number two, compound interest on your career. Most people get promoted eventually. Now, you can go faster or slower, but in fact, time is a factor. And so your career is likely to grow. Like you as a principal, you're likely to either go to another high-level job at another company, right, or to become a senior principal, or to decide to go onto the management side or found your own company. But in all these situations, you're moving up and getting more pay and more leverage. So then the real question is, what do you want your life to be about? The real question is not, will I move up? Will I have enough money? And I know, by the way, if you have crushing student loans and a big credit card, you're like, wait, you're talking past me. I will never have enough money. You will. It may take 20 years, but you will. And I know, if you're 25 and listening to this, you're like, old man, 20 years, I'll be dead. Like, I can't even think that far. Well, those 20 years are going to happen to you, God willing, right? If they don't, there's another problem you have. And you are going to end up there. And so the question is, what do you want your life to be about? What's your mission? What's your purpose? And that takes time to figure out. And then it takes time to act on. I spent the last 5 years of my career at Amazon thinking about and planning what did I want to do next. Now, part of it takes time. And it also, you're busy doing other things. So it's not like I just sat on a mountain and contemplated for 5 years. So I would just encourage people to understand the world is your oyster. Most of the world would trade their situations for yours. They're working in factories. Somewhere there's some guy who's following a water buffalo down a muddy trench right now. He would like to have your situation. You're busy, worrying about your student loans and thinking how screwed you are. But that guy who's trailing the water buffalo would give anything for your problems. So given that, you have the luxury of thinking about a better future.
Okay, so two things. One, you said you are 54. I never had your age before, but you look fantastic for 54. Second, you said that you were contemplating this. What were some decision factors? Was there any tangible things was there like an amount of money, or where are you going to go next? Like what was the factors?
Yeah, absolutely. So once I reached VP at Amazon, because I started as an L7 like you, and I went from L7 to L8 and then L8 to L10. So senior manager to director to VP. Once I got there, I thought to myself, well, next is SVP. Since you asked me different questions, I'll be quick about it. But I looked at that and said, whoa, that's going to take 10 years. And I have to wait for someone else to like quit or die. And I just don't want to do that. And so then it did become a question of two things. What do I want to do? Because to reach the money number, I set a number. I kind of did all the math, which engineers were all good at math. I did all the math and said, how much do I need? And how much buffer do I need? And, I was nicely conservative. And that number was going to take a while to get to. So when you're looking and saying, okay, it's going to be 5 years, then you have to ask yourself, what do I want to do for those 5 years? And that's what led me to switch to gaming, to go to Twitch, because I thought games are fun. And we just bought this company, Twitch. I had worked in games before for a piece of my career at Amazon. And I thought, I love games and I love being around gamers. Let me go to Twitch. And I did it as a skills development piece. I was running a team of 800. And the role I took at Twitch was as advisor to the CEO. So it was a pure influence position. My job was to counsel the CEO of Twitch on how to integrate into Amazon. Wow. By the way, not only influence, it's influence he didn't want at some level. Like, I don't really want to integrate. And so, like, he was not ever hostile to me. But, he was also clear that, like, he was fine with Twitch as it was. And so I had a hard counseling job. And I took that in order to learn and perfect influence skills. So that's kind of my story. And then while I was there, I was constantly thinking about, okay, when I do get to the end, what do I want to do then?
Got it. Okay, excellent. Also, I think another piece is sometimes we have a number, which you have done a great job of, and no number is enough, right? So we call this like a scarcity mindset. If someone has that mindset, super difficult to rest your sword, right? So I think it will be beneficial if we can switch from scarcity to abundance at that point and acknowledge what we actually have, not what we actually feel.
It is true. You can always have more. I went on a vacation after I left Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to Monaco, the Principality of Monaco, which is filled with the ultra wealthy. And I can't remember now, but I took a picture of a yacht, and the back of the yacht said something like accomplishment or satisfaction or
Mm-hmm.
meaning. And I was like, wow. So, like, your life is about having this yacht. And, this yacht was I'm several $1 million, and it's
Mm-hmm.
parked in Monaco, where I Googled what it costs to park your boat in Monaco, and it's thousands and thousands of dollars a day.
Mm-hmm.
So I love a saying, which is there are two ways to be rich. One of them is to have more, and the other is to need less. And if there's always, unless you're going to be Bezos or Musk or whoever, and odds are none of us are, and accumulate at this point, hundreds of billions of dollars, there's always going to be someone with more. So if you can't get over the envy, you're in deep trouble,
Mm-hmm.
because you'll be on the treadmill forever. And I do have peers at Amazon who made VP money and spent it all every year. And so they're still working and they're still spending. Now, are they maybe having a great time? Sure. I am sort of judging their choices, but I can't judge how much fun they're having. It might be,
Mm-hmm.
you're blowing, like a VP at Amazon today makes like $2 million, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
There are VPs elsewhere who make more. If you're blowing 2 million a year, you're having a good time. It's first class everywhere and great restaurants and a huge house, nice cars. But how will you get off that treadmill? Like, will you
Right.
be doing that? I chose fewer things and more free time and more
Mm-hmm.
meaning. And you have to decide that for yourself.
Yeah, and I think what you did is very brave, Ethan. It's not easy to walk away. Like I would like to think sometimes the murder is inside us and you have to face it and chuck the ring, you know?
Ah, wow, I love that. That Mordor is inside us and you have to face it and chuck the ring. I'll
Yeah.
say it was really hard. Like, I was definitely very worried. And I'll also be honest, I moved the goalpost a couple times. I'm like, oh, well, I need X amount of money. And then you get to X and you're like, X plus 20% would feel safer. And then you get to X plus 20 and you're like, well, X plus 20 plus 20 more would be really safe. Eventually, I'm like, I'm at 2X,
Yeah.
right? It's time, to your point, now I have to chuck the ring. I'm only clinging to my precious. I have to let go. I love that. I will be keeping borrowing and like using. Mordor is inside you. You have to decide to chuck the ring. That's a
That
winning, powerful statement.
That's great. Hey, if the famous Ethan Evans VP uses one of the thing I said in his newsletter or live, that's a win for L7 Raj, you know? Next question is, even retired, you do so many things, right? You are constantly writing. You are putting out a post almost every day. You
Mhm.
have, I am subscribed to your paid newsletter. You do events there. You are skiing, busy breaking collarbone surgery, right? All that stuff. What's your secret to time management and productivity? And also maybe skincare, but we'll skip that last part for a later discussion.
Time management is the wrong word. I've done a lot of study on this, and believe me, I can tell you all the time management tricks. I was a master at using time and scheduling time and overscheduling time. And I know all the dumb thing when people used to get physical mail, they used to teach people like open your mail over the garbage can so you can throw it out in one step if it's junk mail. These are time management tips. What you want instead, there are two things: energy management, because how often have you found yourself with an hour, but it's the end of the day and you've got some big task that would be valuable, but you're too burnt out. And so instead you surf YouTube.
Mhm.
It's not really that we don't have time, it's that we don't have energy and focus to use that time well. So There's a paper on this. It's very short. It's called Manage Your Energy, Not Your Time. It's from Harvard Business Review. You can put the link in. I know you'll do that. Put the link in the comments for people. That's the starter. And it's all about get enough sleep, eat the right foods, and a bunch of other things so that you have the energy to use the time that you actually have well. The second thing, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm sure we all are. I'm taking a course right now. They pointed out to me something I already knew, but they made it really solid, which is leverage. I now evaluate every task I do with how leveraged is it? Is it something that's got no leverage and isn't going to pay back many to one? Well, then I have to not do it. Or if I must do it, try and delegate it. And if I can't possibly either skip it or give it to anyone else, do it as shitty as I can get away with as fast as I can. Not because I want to do shitty work, but because some work isn't worth doing well. It's got to be done, right? The garbage has to be taken out. Is there a better way to take out the garbage? No, it's get it done. Move on. But for the things that are high leverage, focus on those. Give those your high energy time, because leverage is what pays back. Leverage is anything that can have a many to one return, anything that can accomplish way more, that will pay dividends. So that's educating yourself. It's automating tasks. It's things that build, say, followers. Like if you had an opportunity for your YouTube channel to do something that would bring you 10,000 new viewers, that's high leverage.
Right.
You have the opportunity to do something that'll bring you 20 new viewers, that's different leverage.
Right.
And you rank things by leverage. So energy and leverage.
Excellent. I love it. This is actually a new answer that I haven't heard in a long time. So I'm definitely going to research manage your energy, not your time.
5-minute read that's worth way more than 5 minutes.
Excellent. Okay, last question, Ethan. How can people get more of you and connect with you?
Of course. So my primary home, as you mentioned, is on LinkedIn. You can always find me there, follow me there. Apologies, I get too many messages to write you personal replies in many cases. So my inbox there is overflowing. But I write a newsletter. That newsletter has a free version. It has a more enhanced paid version where we do events. So that's on Substack. And then I teach courses. And so the courses are linked in various places, but I teach courses both in improving your skills. Some of them are on demand, they're recorded. And I teach courses live, mainly for leaders looking to grow in their leadership levels. So those are the main places to find me. And my mission is to impact as many people as I can. My goal very much is not only to help people find career success, but satisfaction with their careers, because so many people hate their jobs. And that going through life hating the place you spend all day is not a good call.
Yes, love it. And for the viewers, I highly, highly recommend Ethan's newsletters and courses. He has this concept called Magic Loop, which I try to adopt, and a bunch of other things. But if we start talking about them, we need like few more hours or days. So I'll keep that for the future sessions. Ethan, thank you so much for coming. This is very valuable and helpful to our viewers. Hopefully your shoulder heals fast and you go back to your ski slope making new, faster records.
Oh, thank you, Raj. So before I go, I'm going to step off camera for 1 second. I have something that I need to show you just based on what you're wearing. I think you'll enjoy. Give me 1 second.
Okay, sure.
So because I have the broken shoulder, I'm not going to put it on, but do you have one of these? This is the original reInvent hoodie. And you're wearing one. I'm curious, how did you get your hoodie? Because there's a story about these that's funny. Did they just give you one?
Well, yes. Now they don't give you one. The first hoodie I have was from 2015 or 2016, but that one is one of the original.
Yeah.
I don't know how you got it.
So the story is because Amazon is so frugal.
Yeah.
The last day, they sent out a text that says, we have some hoodies that didn't go to customers. If you go to such and such room, you can have a hoodie. But you could only get one after you got the leftovers. And that's Amazon frugal, and it's just really funny. But yeah, I've always loved it. It kind of looks like a wizard's cape,
Yes.
but I saw, yours has reinvent on the shoulder, and that's what made me think of it.
Yeah, yeah, good eye. I feel like the previous hoodies were cooler than the newer hoodies. So I've been through reInvent for a couple times as a customer, and now I go as Amazonian. So now you cannot really get the hoodies easily. But I feel like the previous versions were so much cooler. I have one with a pattern on the hood as well, right? But
Yeah.
that was from a long time back. Now the current hoodie, this year's hoodie, which I don't have because they don't give to Amazonians, it's just a gray hoodie, which nothing against it, but I feel like the hoodie you showed, even this one is one of my favorite hoodie with AWS reinvent on the hood.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
so
That's
cool.
what attracted me to it.
Yeah,
It's just fun Amazon connection in times. Reinvent, Amazon never did a conference. Like Reinvent was a huge experiment at the
right,
time. Like, hey, we have this technology. We need a place where customers can come together and learn about it.
right.
It's become this massive event. In the tech world, everybody knows what reinvent is, and
Hmm.
that's pretty impressive.
Do you still go to the conferences and stuff, Ethan, or you are out of it?
No, I do not, just because my world has diverged from that.
Right.
Plus, I coach a lot of people who work in AWS, so I do
Hmm.
end up sort of staying close to Amazon's technology,
Hmm.
because I'm coaching different people at different levels across the company.
Right. So I really appreciate you coming over and talking to me.
It's really my pleasure, Raj. This has been great fun. Thank you for having me as a guest. For all your viewers, I would leave you with the encouragement. Remember, probably your career is going to work out great. You can follow my advice and like make it better,
Hmm.
but having the confidence that you're already winning life is the basis, because you are.
Hmm.
You could be, the water buffalo is waiting anytime you want to switch out.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Ethan. Have a great day.
All right, you too.